Good evening and welcome to California Today. I'm Daniel Hall. Let's take a look at today's stories. California now cannot criminally charge pregnant women for stillbirths or miscarriages. The announcement comes in response to 2 cases of women losing their unborn children after using illegal drugs. Since the weekend, health workers who have tested positive for COVID-19 are allowed to return to work. The state's health agency cites surging cases and staffing shortages. Governor Gavin Newsom unveiled his plan for the coming fiscal year's state budget. The 300-page budget includes funding for COVID testing and vaccines, combating retail crime, mitigating wildfires, healthcare coverage to all undocumented residents, and more.
It's a $286.4 billion total budget, which represents about a 9.1% increase from last year. The general fund this year is $213.1 billion, close to $250 billion in that space.
Some of the most significant allocations include $2.2 billion to aid illegal immigrants and to provide them with free health care. This would not take effect until January 2024. With the increased demand for COVID testing, Newsom plans to spend $2.7 billion for testing and vaccination efforts. Of that, $1.4 billion will be for immediate emergency appropriations. He is setting aside $2 billion for clearing homeless encampments and providing mental health services for homeless people. Over 3 years, law enforcement agencies will receive $356 million in grants to combat retail crime. Next year will add an additional $132 million. Affordable housing programs can receive grants and tax credits from a $2 billion fund to address the housing crisis. Newsom also plans to provide community colleges with $1.6 billion to fund education programs. Given the massive fires over the past 2 years, Newsom is allocating $1.2 billion over 2 years on wildfire mitigation and $750 million for drought relief. And a massive $6 billion over 5 years will support zero-emission vehicles and charging infrastructures throughout the state. Along with Newsom's proposal for illegal immigrant health care, the state assembly proposed a new law to establish universal health care. A recent survey found that a near supermajority of Californians are opposed to single-payer health care.
Governor Gavin Newsom proposed today that California will extend health care coverage to illegal immigrants. If the proposal passes, California will be the first state to provide such coverage. Newsom's proposal is part of his state's budget plan. Covering all current illegal immigrants in California is estimated at about $2.4 billion per year. Newsom's proposal comes days after the state assembly proposed universal health care coverage. Several members of California Agents and Health Insurance Professionals, or CAHIP, spoke against the proposal. Brad Davis, president of CAHIP, told Business Wire on January 10th that this new law will force Californians into healthcare chaos. Bruce D. Benton, vice president of public affairs, added voters want the state to focus on solving the public health crisis at hand, such as fixing the homeless epidemic, instead of political science experiments with their health care. On January 5th, the California State Assembly proposed Assembly Bill 1400, which would replace the current health coverages that Californians already have. The Conservative Tax Foundation's Vice President of State Projects, Jared Walzak, told BizPac Review that households would pay an average of $12,250 in increased taxes if the bill is passed. According to a research commissioned by CAHIP, which is the state's largest association of health insurance industry professionals, nearly 3/4 or 72% of Californians are satisfied with the timeliness, cost, quality, availability, and accessibility of their health care coverage. The research conducted by Justin Wallen Research last November found that nearly a supermajority of 64.5% of residents oppose universal health care coverage. Further, 2.1% of respondents said health care was the most important issue, tying for 8th place with police brutality and racial issues.
California has been facing staffing shortages in the healthcare industry. In response, the state's health department is allowing healthcare professionals to keep working after testing positive for COVID-19 if they don't show symptoms. NTD's David Lamb reports.
On January 8th, the California Department of Public Health issued guidance that allows COVID-positive healthcare professionals to immediately return to work. Under the new guidance, which is to be used as a last resort, asymptomatic healthcare professionals do not have to isolate or quarantine. The guidance remains in effect until February 1st and stipulates that these employees wear N95 respiratory masks while on the job and preferably work with patients who've also tested positive. Mandates put into effect last year by Governor Gavin Newsom required healthcare workers to get COVID-19 vaccines or face termination. In October, health giant Kaiser Permanente suspended more than 2,000 employees who are not vaccinated. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Attorney General Rob Bonta recently issued an alert stating that women should not be given criminal charges for having stillbirths or miscarriages. The alert comes in response to 2 women from Kings County who were sentenced to prison for having stillbirths after drug use. Here's NTD's Cynthia Kai with the story.
3 years ago, Adora Perez was sentenced to 11 years of prison after using illicit drugs, including methamphetamine, during pregnancy and having a stillbirth. She is currently incarcerated. A year later, Chelsea Becker was also charged for having a stillbirth after using meth. She served 1 year in prison and has been released on her own recognizance to await trial. On Thursday, California Attorney General Rob Bonta issued an alert stating that women should not be prosecuted, imprisoned, or charged with murder for miscarriages or stillbirths, regardless of the circumstances.
I am announcing that the California Department of Justice is issuing our first ever legal alert to inform law enforcement agencies across California that a person carrying a fetus should not be charged with murder for miscarriage or stillbirth.
Bonta issued the alert to inform all California district attorneys, police chiefs, and county sheriffs.
Today's action was developed in response to the legal issues that arose in Kings County after women were charged and prosecuted for fetal murder by the local district attorney.
California's definition of murder is the unlawful killing of a human being or a fetus with malice aforethought. Bonta says his interpretation of this definition excludes actions done by the mother of a fetus. However, the Kings County District Attorney's Office says the cases are about women who repeatedly used meth that resulted in the death of a fetus. Bonta says his interpretation also does not cover postpartum situations, such as a Mendocino County woman who pleaded guilty last year in the death of her newborn due to her ingesting meth before breastfeeding. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Real estate tycoon Robert Durst, who was serving a life sentence for murdering a friend in 2000, has died at age 78. Durst was hospitalized with COVID-19 2 days after his sentencing. His lawyer said he died in a state prison hospital facility in Stockton, California. Durst was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in October for murdering his best friend, Susan Berman. He was long a suspect but never charged in the disappearance of his wife, Kathleen McCormick, who went missing in New York in 1982. Body cam footage shows a rescue crew freeing a pilot from a plane just seconds before a train crashes into it. The plane crash landed onto train tracks in Los Angeles on Sunday afternoon. NTD's Jason Blair has the story. A warning, some viewers may find the following footage disturbing.
Officers from the Los Angeles Police Department pulled a pilot from a plane moments before a train crashed into the plane.
Go, 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 go!
The close call happened on Sunday afternoon and was caught on police body cam footage. According to the FAA, the single-engine plane took off from Whitman Airport in Los Angeles County. Fox 5 San Diego reported that the plane crashed around 2 p.m. and landed on the Metrolink Antelope Valley Line train tracks. Body cam footage showed rescue crews freeing the pilot from the plane and pulling him to safety just as a train can be heard closing in. The pilot suffered head injuries and was transported for treatment to a regional trauma center.
The pilot was inside the seat still, suffering from injuries, and there was air fuel leaking onto the street.
The LAPD told NTD that they don't expect any more video footage to be released and that the National Transportation Safety Board is handling the investigation. Jason Blair, NTD News, California.
Last Sunday, the Golden Globes announced the winners at a private ceremony.
Members of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association gathered at the Beverly Hilton Hotel for the 90-minute private event. The private event carried on despite an unofficial boycott. Award winners were announced without a red carpet, host, nominees, audience, or even a televised broadcast. Some highlights include Steven Spielberg's West Side Story, which won several big awards. It won awards for Best Picture Comedy or Musical, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actress. A unique winner is a 77-year-old actor Oh Young-soo from South Korea. He plays Oh Il-nam in Squid Game and won Best Performance for Supporting Actor. The association provided real-time updates on the winners on social media. Last year, critics questioned whether the association swayed choices for nominees and winners through using its close relationships with certain movie studios. As a result, NBC dropped plans to televise the event.
Now to NTD's Thomas Christian for an update from the world of sports.
I'm Thomas Christian, giving you the California Today Sports Roundup. In the final matchup of the 2021-22 regular season, the Chargers, Rams, Raiders, and 49ers took the field Sunday, all with the same thing on the line: the playoffs. All but the Rams had yet to clinch a playoff spot, as three teams' season came down to the new 17th game of the season: win or go home. Derek Carr threw a pair of touchdown passes to Hunter Renfrow, and Daniel Carlson kicked the last of his 5 field goals as time expired in overtime, and the Las Vegas Raiders clinched a spot in the NFL playoff field by holding on for a 35-32 victory Sunday night over the visiting Los Angeles Chargers. Carr went 20 of 36 passing for 186 yards, as Las Vegas won its last 4 games to earn a trip to Cincinnati for a wildcard game Saturday. Adding to the drama was that a tie game would have put both teams in the playoffs. Instead, the Raiders' victory eliminated the Chargers and allowed the Pittsburgh Steelers to make the playoffs instead. Carlson kicked a 40-yard field goal on the first possession of OT to give the Raiders a 32-29 lead, with the Chargers tying the game 32-all on a 41-yard kick from Dustin Hopkins. Carlson won it on a 47-yarder on the final play of OT as the Raiders advanced to the playoffs for the first time since 2016. Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert completed 34 of 64 passes for 383 yards and 3 touchdowns with 1 interception to boot. Austin Eckler had a rushing and receiving TD for the Chargers, while Mike Williams had 9 catches for 119 yards. Raiders 35, Chargers 32. Robbie Gould kicked a 24-yard field goal with 2:48 remaining in overtime, allowing San Francisco to earn a wild-card spot in the NFC playoffs with a come-from-behind victory over host Los Angeles. Rookie cornerback Ambry Thomas intercepted a Matt Stafford pass 6 plays later, assuring the 49ers this number 6 seed in the West, and a meeting with the 3rd-seeded Dallas Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. San Francisco quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo, playing 17 days after tearing a ligament in his right thumb, completed 23 of 32 passes for 316 yards and 1 touchdown. After blowing a 17-0 lead and seeing a 5-game winning streak come to an end, the Rams fell to the number 4 seed in the NFC and will host the 5th-seeded Arizona Cardinals next week. 49ers 27, Rams 24. China's Eileen Gu capped the FIS Freestyle Ski World Cup season with a perfect record in women's halfpipe after a triumph at Mammoth Mountain in California on Saturday to capture the first Crystal Globe of her career. The 18-year-old reigning world champion, who was born in the United States but will represent China at next month's Beijing Olympics, where she has tipped to win gold, delivered a pair of solid runs and finished with a best of 97.5. Gu's win saw her become the first skier in Freestyle World Cup history to win 4 consecutive World Cup competitions. Former halfpipe world champion Kelly Sildaru of Estonia finished second, while American Britta Sergurny took the bronze. Gu will head to the February 4th through 20th Beijing Olympics full of confidence, as she is a perfect 4 for 4 in halfpipe World Cup action this season. As always, I'm Thomas Christian, and thanks for tuning in.
And that's all for tonight. You can join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. If you have any news tips or ideas for our show, feel free to let us know. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook. I'm Daniel Hall. Have a wonderful evening.